Good evening, Bucs fans. It's another wonderful episode of Bucs Report, the aftermath, where we break things down. We do the Buck talk. We talk about anything, but the Bucs is the number one priority. Cheers to everybody in the States because we got tomorrow. We celebrate our Independence Day. So shout out to everybody out there. And speaking of fireworks, we're going to talk about back in the Bucs days how we used to just wish the fireworks. And we got our boy Slick, the British guy who's always fly on standby, and he puts the words in I. I'm coming with something.
I swear to God, you're gonna keep adding a syllable every time.
Damn right. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. I haven't had much time to really really look into stuff today, so it's been a busy week. My boy, I always shout out one of my guys, Stuart Edwards, our starting free safety, who's got his sixth pick of the year so far. So he's collecting picks. I will be. There is a lovely picture of or meme of him as the Grim Reaper knocking on doors.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. And then if he collects all the teams, we're gonna do the Thanos glove.
Okay.
With all the teams and that. Hey, when you're having a losing season, you got to celebrate the good shit.
Absolutely. Remember, you got to take the good with the bad. And I'm glad you brought that up because Buck fans, you're in for a treat tonight. Of course, I know you guys are a little tired about talking about the present and what ifs and whatnot, but we're gonna take that a trip down memory lane. And this is for you Buck people who was riding on the good years with the Bucs. We're gonna talk about some of the bad years. We're gonna talk about how through the dark ages that us Buck fans we lived through this. This was a marriage for Buck fans, for better or for worse, through sickness and health, through thick and thin. And we was there, we rolled it out. So we're gonna have to talk about that, but because there's always a silver lining to everything, Buck fans. There were a lot of bad times, but we also knew how to laugh and have fun at it. We're gonna talk about some of the promising years that gave us false hope. We're gonna talk about some of the years where we were like, where the hell are we going? But first, that's going to be the last topic because that's special. We're going to have to break that down piece by piece. But one of the big topics we're going to get into that's like a little appetizer. We're going to talk about this because I saw this on Twitter. We're going to talk about the 5 GOATs of the Buccaneers because I saw this on Twitter. And I tell you, Slick, it was actually a pretty solid chart. The guys that everybody had that I saw that they had on Twitter, you had Derek Brooks, you had Simeon Rice, Rondé Barber, John Lynch, and So yeah,
okay. It's almost like your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, you're the top 5 that everybody thinks, and then Leroy Selmon was in there. But yeah. I want you because it sparked up a pretty decent debate. For the most part, I'll say this: everybody agreed with Rondé and Derek Brooks. Those were the 2 that I saw. People was like, I'm not arguing with that. Yeah, everybody else was like, eh. And Leroy Selmon was, for the most part, you agreed, but other people was like, maybe. But let's break it down. I mean, give me your and take your time and explain each one. Who are your 5 GOATs, your Rushmore of Buccaneers that you go, look, y'all, this is it. This is my mountain. If they came in your crib right now and you had a damn sculpture, like you'd be like, hey, this is the people that's
these are the boys.
Yes.
Okay. We'll stick with number one. That is the first ever pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has to be Leroy Selmon. I don't know a lot because I haven't watched a lot of this stuff, but his personality, he was Mr. Buccaneer for a very long time, big in the community, absolute baller on the field, and has the respect of being in that 100 club of the greatest football players to play in 100 years. That is special to even be on that team. And I believe only 2 Buccaneers are on that team, and he being one of them. When you're looking at these kind of players that you want to put on there, it depends on if you're going to just look at pure playability and this guy was just a straight baller, or do you want a bit of everything? And me, I want a bit of everything. How was it this person in the community? How was this person as a human being? How, and what were they like as a player? That does come down. And how long were they with the Bucs? Because if you've only been with the Bucs less than double digits, then you essentially, I won't say sold out on the Bucs because you don't know what happens in contracts and stuff. But the lifers, they're the ones that wanted to stay. They're the ones who probably took less money. They're the ones who wanted the team to work or believed in the future of the team. They're the ones who, when the going got tough, still stuck around. So Leroy Selmon has to be my number one all time just because of what he represents. Then we go into the next one. Similar bloke, completely different position, still on the same side of the ball. And we're going to have a lot of guys on this one side of the ball because the Buccaneers team was a very defense-orientated team. It's only been in the last 10 years that we've really started to develop major offensive talent that people can really talk about. We have, A-Train. We've had a few running backs, but they've kind of left, and like Warwick Dunn, for example, he kind of left and came back and what have you. He wasn't sustainable in Tampa. So my next one is double nickel. Derek Brooks has to be done again, just like the person before him. An absolute legend of a human being on the 100 team. One of the greatest outside linebackers to ever play our game. Huge respect and a great human being. Embodied everything that Coach Dungy wanted out of a player. And he was tough enough because he was that good for the team. He ended up getting hard done by the team. Mm-hmm. And then the next one is probably my favorite player. I didn't get to watch a heck of a lot of him but I've watched a lot of Bucs archive stuff. Rondé Barber, about to go to the Hall of Fame. And every one of these guys so far has been in the Hall of Fame. Rondé Barber epitomized. People always say, "Oh, well, he wasn't a great cornerback. He wasn't a great cornerback." No, but he was one of the greatest nickelbacks to ever play this game, and he redefined a position. Not many DBs have. And then he went and played safety. He did. He literally was a Swiss Army knife on defense, and you can't ask for more of that. He sacked the quarterback. He intercepted the football. He knocked the ball out. What more do you? He notched up tackles. Is like the lead dog of all time DB tackles, right? So when you add all that up, that makes him special. So he's got to be my number. So I'm on number 3 now. This is when it starts to get difficult because the 3 and Rondé was a big community guy too. Very quiet and shy, almost, I wouldn't say shy, but like quiet, but he wasn't like a loud person or what have you. None of these guys are big mouths. None of these guys are divas. This is where it kind of gets hard. And this is where I can see where people go, well, it could be this person. Now, modern day Buccaneers will want to insert someone like Mike Evans, and they're rightfully so. Mike Evans is a really good shout for that. But for me, I think you have to get an A-Train just because of what he did and that the position that he played was a dying one. He is the last great fullback to ever play the game. But him and Mike Evans, you could interchange those two. And I think Mike Evans would take that spot eventually. I think there's just a bit more time that's got to be had. Criminally insane on how talented A-Train was. He was beast mode before beast mode existed. This guy has laughable stats, laughable tape of people clinging onto him and just running straight through. And he wasn't particularly like a blazer or anything. He was just pure power, and he knew how to run an angled line and would just cut through people like a fucking hot knife through butter. And as I said, it does get difficult at this point. This is where I'm starting to go, oh, well, what about that guy? And what about that guy? I'm going to go and put in a guy who hasn't retired yet. I'm going to put in Levante David. Selflessness, attitude. I mean, he is the epitome of the Bucs being crap and good at the same time, because he's seen both sides of the coin. And I'm glad that he got to taste his playoffs. He got to taste, he could have been one of those players that Calvin Johnson's never won a playoff game. Mad. Yeah, the legacy that guy leads, but people like Sapp you can put in, but then Sapp left. Sapp was a money guy. Sapp had a lot of other stuff that going on. He wasn't a community person, and that's why he doesn't go in. John Lynch is a tough one because he was a stand-up dude, but he did bounce around the league a little bit. Not that goes against him or anything. I mean, the fact that he's in 2 Ring of Honors says a lot. That's pretty damn special in itself. Not many people would do that. My honorable mention, Hardy Nickerson.
Yeah, I figured you was gonna get. You talk about Hardy a lot. I knew he was gonna.
I'm a huge fan of Hardy. I think, yeah, the way he played the game and how special he was. Like that one season where I think it was 2,000 tackles or something. There was one where it was just ridiculous. He completely broke the NFL, and yeah, special. How about yourself?
Shit. Well, first of all, thank you for that, Slick. Those were some really good. Those were hell hella choices. And before I even get into that, I want to give a special shout out to everyone on the IG Live that's watching us. Thank you for Artie McCarty. I appreciate it. Nisa Miller, Miss Desi Des, how you doing? Thank you all for participating and watching. So shout out to you all. And yeah, all those picks. So let's we look at it. Leroy, D Brooks, Barber, A Train. For all you folks out there who don't know who A Train is, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's Michael start up the guts. Bad motherfucker. Then Levante David. I can't argue with that. And then Hardy Nickerson. Yes, Hardy Nickerson is the unsung guy. I don't know why. Real Buck fans, we love Hardy Nickerson. He was that dude. I think it was like in a way he sort of mentored Derek Brooks in them for a while. And they elevated because it's no coincidence that when Hardy Nickerson was there, Derek Brooks' game leveled up to the level of what it is. So all right, that's good. So I'll give you mine. And this is going to be on the Mount Rushmore. And I know people are going to go, wow, AJ, are you jumping the gun? And I said, absolutely not, because he's going to be appreciated. And I wouldn't be surprised if this guy gets his own 30 for 30, the unappreciated hero. And that is Mike Evans. Mike Evans, here we go. Mike Evans, again, you are unappreciated amongst the social media, not your peers. Your peers know and recognize who you are. Mike Evans is hands down the greatest offensive weapon the Buccaneers ever had. And here's why. He has been Mr. Consistent for so long. And this guy, again, Buck fans and social media worlds out there, it's not that many receivers that can put up their numbers with different quarterbacks. We already know, hell, for a lot of quarterbacks, changing different coordinators, Matt Ryan's of the world, it's hard when you have to switch. And what if your quarterback is shit? There's a lot of receivers out there, again, that could have. Can you imagine if Calvin Johnson had a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning or an Aaron Rodgers? Stafford's nice, but he wasn't those guys. Calvin would have had astronomical numbers, and if he was on a better team. But Mike Evans delivers. I'm going to break it down, guys. Josh McCown, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Mike Glennon, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady, Blaine Gabbert. All those quarterbacks has thrown to this guy. And he still produces. He still produces. And the numbers, again, he is literally the Curtis Martin of wide receivers. Now, people go, wow, do your homework on Curtis Martin, a Hall of Fame running back. Was he appreciated of his time? Not really, because he didn't do everything special, but his numbers speak for himself. So it's till he retired, people said, oh, wow, this guy was like that. So that's what Mike Evans is going to be. Mike Evans is that guy that you didn't appreciate, you didn't know what you had until he left. So mark my words, Slick, when he retires, 2 to 4 years, and if he can, and let's say he finished his career with 1,000 yards, the rest of his career, you can't deny him that. You won't be able to deny him that.
Nope.
You won't. And peep this, he's gonna have another new quarterback throwing to him between Baker and Kyle Trask. So if he gets another 1,000-yard season, I honestly think this will start to get him up in that level where people go, the media will go, well, damn, he actually is that guy, because a lot of people are shitting on the Bucs quarterback play at this moment, and we haven't even started the game yet. So that's why Mike Evans is my favorite guy, and he never, like you said, like the man, he never vocally complains. He's a man of action, and it's been too many times he could have went somewhere else, and he's loyal. And Evans, you're that dog. You're an elite receiver. If I met you, your name is Elite. What's up, Elite? Elite Evans. MEE, Elite, Mike Elite Evans. There you go, Mike. I'm gonna start that trend. Mike Elite Evans. It's okay to be about me. So yes. So then my next guy, Warren Sapp. Now, I know he was a money chasing guy. On a personal level, and I don't even know this, but on a personal level, I can see why people might not have liked him. I don't give a damn about that. Again, fans, we don't know a lot of these players. Some of the nicest people you think on camera could be some of the biggest dickheads. And I've seen it, and I know. Trust me. I've seen a lot of guys where, oh, he is such a nice, well-spoken person. Off the camera, total asshole. The type where it's like, oh, just because you play football don't mean you won't get knocked out. But that's another story. Warren Sapp redefined that position. We haven't seen a level of that since the Joe Green era. Now, I know people want to talk about your Aaron Donalds and all that. Damn that shit. Aaron Donald can't stop a run like Warren Sapp did. Warren Sapp was, and especially in the era of football where the trenches was a battlefield back in them days. Those guys, them offensive linemen did everything in their power to manhandle Warren Sapp. I know so many games that Warren Sapp single-handedly took over. And let's not forget, the 99 season, that was the greatest season that I've ever seen for a defensive tackle. People don't realize the level of he did everything. He was ahead of his time. If there's no Warren Sapp, you don't have the Aaron Donalds, because like Aaron Donald, Warren Sapp was fast. Warren Sapp could move. A lot of people don't remember that Warren Sapp was a tight end before he converted to defensive tackle, and that's how him and Derek Brooks know each other, because they played each other in football back in the high school days. But Warren Sapp, that's the best defensive tackle, not just because he's a Buccaneer. Now, people want to say, oh, well, when he left. Now, Slick, this is the only reason why I'll say this. The Buccaneers organization failed Sapp, not Sapp. Now, I know Sapp wanted the money, but if you see the organization is going to a bad place, like Slick, it's like your job. If you know your job is going to a bad place and another job is saying, hey, we're going to pay you a lot more and far more, you're going to go for the most part. And it's guaranteed contracts. So if they give you, hey, Slick, we're going to give you a 5-year deal for $1 million, you're gone. You're going to be like,
yeah, for sure.
You're gone. And you love your job now, but if it's just scenarios, guys, you got to pay the bills. And if your organization is going into shit, I don't want to be a part of that either, because I don't want my legacy messed up. Because it's not like Warren Sapp doesn't go to these games. Warren Sapp still is a supporter of the Buccaneer community. So, and the players, shout out to him. So, yes, thank you, Warren Sapp. Now, I'm going to go with Rondé Barber, like you. Rondé Barber, it's not even that he couldn't guard your number one receiver. It's just that's not what they used him for. He was a well-rounded guy. First of all, ain't that many other corners that can blitz and do all the things that he was asked of. How many people made a cornerback single-handedly made Adrian Peterson fumble not once but a few times? He blew up people. What Slick said, the man transitioned to safety and he was good at it. Rondé Barber, it's all about the narrative, just like Mike Evans and Warren Sapp. As you guys can see, most of the people I'm telling you about, if the narrative was different, people would love them more. But because they are not on they're on the Buccaneers, you want to smear them. Damn that. These guys were skills. I would look, you give me, I got Prime, of course, I have to take Prime of all time. But if I had to say, Rondé would be my third or second choice, and it's not even close, because you know why? Yes, Ty Law and your Champ Baileys might be better in certain aspects, but who gonna make that tackle? There's only and look, Rondé is the most for sure corner tackler. I put that on everybody. Tell me another corner that can tackle like Rondé. We love Primetime, but everybody knows Primetime wasn't a tackler. And
he tackled more like a safety, didn't he?
Yes, yes. And well, Prime already said it. I don't need to tackle. I can cover you. But if I did a short slant route and let's say Deion Sanders was 6-7 yards off, he ain't trying to tackle nobody. So that's why Rondé was a dog. You guys got to put respect on him. That's why he's going in the damn Hall of Fame. It took too much time, but we see and we like it and we respect you. So Rondé, that's my dog. And then for my fourth person, of course, I got to go with Derek Brooks. That would be blasphemous. Derek Brooks is the epitome of what a football player should be, on and off the field, as you said, Slick. A stand-up individual, a humble guy, but also could play to unbelievable levels as an outside linebacker. I would say this. It was never necessarily Derek Brooks's athleticism that awed me. What awed me was his fundamental mind and how he knew where to be. Now, of course, he was very fast because he was a 6-foot undersized linebacker, but he knew the game mentally, and his fundamentals is why he lasted so long in this league. Derek Brooks is the Tim Duncan of linebackers. You know what? And this is why I say this. Tim Duncan wasn't always an athletic monster, but he used his fundamentals. Tim Duncan was literally the backboard shooter. Derrick Brooks was your backboard guy. He made tackles. If he needed to blow you up, he could. And again, for anybody out there who challenging, for anybody who's not a Buck fan watching right now, Derrick Brooks was the only linebacker in the NFL history to tackle Mike Vick in open field. Not the 2010 Mike Vick either. 2002 Vick, the Willie Beeman of quarterbacks. Motherfucker was so fast. Look, this was around the time Mike Vick was God in Madden in 04. So we're not talking about a sorry Mike Vick. We're talking about fast Michael Vick. Derrick Brooks tackled him. So, and of course, Derrick Brooks had that unbelievable 2002 year, and the interception that he made in the Super Bowl, it was a cherry on the top. You can't even make this shit up. That's like a movie. The guy who was leading the charge. So Derrick Brooks, absolutely. You're the greatest Buck of all time, Derrick Brooks. And then I do go with Leroy Selmon, like you said. That's my fifth guy. You have to go with Leroy Selmon because he was the foundation. Now, he is the foundation of what Buck ball is all about. Defense, because the Bucs could have drafted someone on offense, but the mindset, especially in the South, was defense. You have to have a strong defense because defense do win championships. And despite how shitty the Bucs were in the beginning, the third year you take your team to an NFC championship, it's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And Leroy Selmon was a dog. And again, he's a Buck player in the top 100. And Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, gave him his flowers and talked about how special he was. That means a lot because can you imagine Bill Belichick probably is like, I wish I had that kind of guy on my team. If Bill Belichick had a Leroy Selmon of this time, shit, Brady would never have left Tampa and the Patriots have like 8 rings already. And then I'm going to go with this. My sixth man, and I know you talked about him earlier. I got to go with Warrick Dunn. Warrick was that dude. To me, he was like one step behind the Marshall Faulk because he could run up the gut. He was swift. He was shifty. His biggest weakness was he just couldn't block like a Marshall Faulk. He wasn't as that's the biggest difference. But they had the same speed and all that work. And as a person. For all you Buck fans out there, I say go check out his story and what he does for the community and what he's been through. His mother was a police officer that was murdered, and he forgave I think he went to prison and he forgave that murderer. So that just shows you what kind of person he is as a human being. And he also works with people outside of the community. But as I always say, I like to always stick to the skills. He had the skills. He was official. When him and Mike Allstott were there, I wished it would have stayed longer. I wish that could have been going, but it's cool. And he had a hell of a career in Atlanta. I remember when they were nicknamed DVD. Warrick Dunn. I forgot the other guy's name, but yeah. So that's and then if I have to go with my other guy, I'm gonna get my seventh man, of course, John Lynch. Another person who left because of the organization and their bullshit. But John Lynch, Derrick Brooks, and Warren Sapp with the foundation. And then, damn it, I know it's slick. I got one more. I have to do this because Mike Allstott. Mike Allstott is the reason why I love playing. Like, I would love to play running back because I want to run somebody over. Allstott he showed no fear. And like you said, Slick, he brung back the old school days, the 80s and 70s of the Earl Campbells and the Walter Paytons and the Jim Browns, where you punished your guys. Didn't nobody want to mess with Allstott in the fourth quarter. That's shit. Yep. Come on, Mike. So that's my picks. But yes, the Rushmore is Evans, Sapp, Rondé, Derrick Brooks, and Leroy Selmon, and I stick by that. And again, Mike Elite Evans. Buck fans, let's get that trend started. Mike Elite Evans. Let's do that. So yes. But
here's one for you about Mike Elite Evans. If you stack his stats next to Calvin Johnson's, because they both done 9 years, there's not a massive difference.
I know.
There's not a huge difference. I think it's like 1 touchdown and about 800 yards.
Oh, I agree.
And one of them
yeah, and now Again, Buck fan, I'm a football player. I love the game. I'm not here to say that Mike Evans is Calvin Johnson. He's not. Put it this way: we know Calvin is special, and I've met him personally because one, my cousin Rashawn Grant, shout out to him, played at Georgia Tech with them, so I know all about him and met him in person. Hell of a guy, slick. One of the most humblest dudes you ever know. I remember when I joked and said, "Yo, what if you go to Detroit?" He was like, "I just want to play football." A good individual. Put it this way:
That's cool.
if he would have stayed in the league, and like I said, if you would have given Calvin an elite quarterback, he'd break all the receiving records known to man.
Yeah,
He literally is the Barry Sanders of receivers. What could have been if the organization had been better? So we're not talking. We know, and I like Mike Evans, but I tell Mike Evans him straight up, "Hey, you my dog, but you ain't Calvin." But that's what, Slick. That's all right. A lot of people.
The thing is, I don't think he tries to be.
Nope.
And
Nope.
the beauty of all this is,
Yep.
in 2 years' time, if Mike Evans stacks 2 more, he equals Jerry Rice's streak. He does 3, he breaks the streak. All right.
Oh.
This year, if he goes it, he breaks Tim Brown and stays, and he is guaranteed second place.
If he breaks Jerry Rice's 1,000-yard season, that's Hall of Fame. You honestly, I don't give a shit. The league would literally.
I think 10 from your rookie season.
Yep.
To wherever you get to is, and so that being the streak, I think that's enough to get you in anyway.
Personally. I agree.
But I think if he hits the 100 touchdown marker and the 10,000 yards minimum, I think and does the 10 just 10,000 10,000 oh my god 1,010 times, I think that it's an over conversation. But I have noticed in the last couple of years, and it probably is a bit of the Brady effect, that he has started to get media talking about it. There's teams talking about players, teams trading for him more and more now.
Mm-hmm.
Teams talking about, the Buccaneers need to re-sign him quick. There's a lot of stuff coming out about how Mike Evans is this great receiver. Now, they're not mentioning him at the same level, but he's starting to be considered as a top 10, because you can't beat consistency. And it's not like he's consistently okay. Because someone said, he's in the Hall of Average. I'm like, well, tell me what is average about having 10, 1,000. If he was average, then everybody would have done what Mike Evans done. But he is currently one of the NFL touchdown leaders. He's in the top 5, I believe. And he's currently of active players in the top 5 of receiving yards. So you can't turn around and say he's not good enough. You've got D-Hop in there. You've got plenty of other people in that conversation. So.
Yeah, and narratives are the biggest thing. That's my thing. Narratives are the biggest situations, because when people talk about the Cooper Kupps and the Justin Jeffersons and the Jamar Chases, that's fine and gravy, but the media is going to push that because, one, those are more exciting players and more exciting teams. Evans is not going to always excite you. Justin Jefferson will, Cooper Kupp. But again, when you know the game of football, you can't just look at it like, well, he's producing more. No, this is football. It takes the entire team to make the shit work. So if their job, a lot of coordinators for a lot of elite receivers, hey, give him the ball no matter what. As you can see, Slick, for Buck fans, Slick and I have already analyzed how Brady's mindset worked. He wasn't a gunslinger. He wasn't a risk taker. He had a better repertoire with the Godwin, because Godwin was the intermediate guy who can do all those the little short yards that he loves.
The big thing about Mike Evans, and the knock on him, is he doesn't run a very expansive route tree, because he doesn't need to, because what he does, like I've said this before, he's the best in the league at what he does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is the best in the league at what he does. You give him comebacks, you give him fades, you give him he does decent. I think I'd say his crosses are pretty decent.
Yes.
And then you give him hitch. He's a hitch master, because obviously he has that deceptive speed. So sometimes those DBs start to bite on his fade, so he can just throttle back and he is a master of those. And even if the wide receiver's coming down on him, all you need to do is aim for about 2 feet above Mike Evans' head. That ball's still coming in.
Yeah,
that ball's still being reeled in.
And we're not talking about his adjustments.
Get checked out, but he'll be back in that drive at some point.
Yeah, and he adjusts in the air. A guy like that. And I love how you body. And I love how you said nobody does what he can. we got to go back to narratives. There was another receiver back in the day who only does certain things. Randy Moss. Randy Moss wasn't the best route runner. Randy Moss damn sure wasn't going up the middle, but Randy Moss was that deep threat guy.
He
And
could embarrass you.
yeah, he would embarrass you. But because, like you said, in a way, Mike Evans is stuck because he has sneaky speed, but he doesn't have overwhelming like a Randy Moss or a Calvin Johnson to where, yeah. But like you said, that 50-50 ball, shit. Give me Evans. Right now, nobody can do a better 50-50. And like you said, his footwork is phenomenal. Go watch some of his rookie season. He was making catches like that. And I was like, well, damn. So, yes, Mike Evans will be there. That is, it's going to happen. And the simple fact that he has a ring, too, that literally helps his
For
case.
the legacy. And adds to the legacy. And also, I think if he gets 1,000 yards this season, that kind of shuts the people going, oh, well, can you do it without Brady? I don't know where people see. My favorite one I did today, so someone put up and said, oh, yeah, but can you do it without Brady? And I went, I had no idea, but Brady played for the Buccaneers for 9 years.
Right. Right.
Can we have the Super Bowls that he won in that time as well? Because I remember he won a Super Bowl in 2014. He won a Super Bowl in 2006, maybe in 2016. He won two Super Bowl in 2017. We'll take the extra 3 rings. That's fine because that solidifies his legacy.
Facts.
If you turn around and say Mike Evans has got 3 to 4 rings and he has the stats that he's got, it's done.
It's done.
That's a conversation.
You would with those, if he had 3-4 rings, people would literally be talking about him being the top 3 wide receiver of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people, yes, Buck fan. I mean, people out there. Evans had better numbers before Brady. I don't know.
The touchdowns went. I think it was the touchdowns because he was used as a red zone piece.
Yes,
that's what he was. He was a decoy and a red zone piece, and a lot of the times when that sneaky speed worked, and he was like one of the reads, he'd get the ball occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
In that second year, he tried to feed Mike Evans the ball. I think his arm was dead. His arm wasn't as good. I'm not saying it just wasn't as good.
No, you're right. It wasn't, and he wasn't as focused either because it wasn't Evans the only one he was missing. He was missing Julio because Julio would get some separation, and it's like, damn, Brady, why is the ball doing this when it's supposed to be like this? So at that point, Father Time, most likely, and also shitty coaching, caught up. When you have shitty coaching and a quarterback that's timid and injuries on your line, that shit that would mess with anybody. So no excuses. We know what we see. We're not saying this because we were just Buck fans. If Mike Evans was on any other team, I'd give him the same respect because Slick said it best. I like consistency. When you are so consistent like that, you can't ignore the shit. I think because when people there's only one receiver right now that I can honestly say is better than him because he runs better routes and he does all the shit too, that's Devontae Adams. Now, Devontae still can't do a 50-50 like him, but if you want to go to overall well-rounded, I will give you Devontae. But don't give me no damn Cooper Kupp. First of all, Cooper Kupp hasn't been in the league long enough for you to do that shit. I'll take Chris Godwin over Cooper Kupp. You just like guys that look like when they get fed the ball a lot. There's a difference between being a good receiver and a high volume receiving receiver. You want to know, Slick, who's a perfect example of that shit? Old Slant Boy.
Yeah.
Remember old Slant Boy? Remember that year? I remember that year people were dick riding him
because he
carried all these. He had the most receptions, and I said, okay, watch what happens.
The slant, and it's a 5-yard slant, a 5-yard slant, a 5-yard slant, a 5-yard slant, a 5-yard slant. And yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I can't remember the gentleman's name. We had him on here, and he said, "Yeah, but you got to stop it." I was like, "Yeah," and teams will. I think after that year that he did not play any, because all you got to do is turn around and say, "Right, outside linebacker."
Yep.
Every time he runs that fucking thing, just fucking nail him.
Yeah, and then and when playoffs came, he bitched out. So that's my whole point. Just because you're a high volume receiving person, that doesn't mean you are the best. That's like, and I got to go back to the NBA. Would you rather have a guy, Slick, that only shoots 23s, but he makes 11 of them, than a guy who shoots 50, but he makes 21 of them? Which one you rather have?
You have to say that stat again.
So he only takes 20 shots, but he'll make 11 of them. consistently. But you
Okay.
got a guy who takes 50 and he'll get 27.
I'll go with the other guy because it's short volume. Because think of your misses, and every time you're missing, that's almost a turnover in possession, unless you're lucky.
Exactly, and that's what people don't
But
realize.
I've just started getting into basketball, so
No, and that's why when you that's the difference between like in basketball, a scorer and a shooter. Somebody can be shooting a lot or high volume, that's cool, but you make it when it counts. Mike Evans makes catches when they count. Mike
absolutely.
Evans does things when it's necessary. And don't give me that. Oh, people love to try to clown him on the Panthers game when he dropped that pass. I'm like, every receiver in NFL history has done that shit. It doesn't matter. Every NFL receiver has dropped passes. The narrative, it doesn't. You gotta get that out of your
I
heart.
remember we were highlighted at that point in time. If you would have done that with Josh McCown, no one would have given a shit.
Thank you. It would have been, oh, it happens. And but then you don't like they don't love they hate talking about the second game of the Panthers where he scored on them 3 times and they embarrassed that corner so bad. First of all, you should never do a little patty cake tap on a guy who's 6'5" and like 240 and who could beat you with his speed. You supposed to lock him up and he couldn't do it. So that guy was a dumbass. But yes, guys, Evans is gonna be your guy, Mikey Lee Evans. Let's put that out there. It's gonna happen. But I do want to go back. Now let's go to the present for a little bit. We're gonna get to the past soon, but we're gonna go to the present. I just want to get this out the way. Now, of course, you still have people on social media asking me, so AJ, you really believe in if Baker Mayfield's your starter, you really gonna believe in him? I think he's trash. I just want to ask you first, Slick. What quarterback are they seeing? Are they looking at him as a quarterback, or are they looking at the narration around him?
Um, the issue with Baker is he is a bit of a turnover freak, and that's always been kind of like his MO. He's a bit of a gunslinger, and you're gonna get that with a guy with a gunslinger's mentality. Um, he had moments in Cleveland where he was good. He was never like quote unquote bad. Um, I'm not like of all the free agents out there, he was probably the best one for us. Like I'm a huge Minshew fan, but I don't know if he's got the nuts. Like because he's not got the arm that Baker's got. Like
Mm-hmm.
he'll be the kind of guy who would probably try and run it at someone and let his head get taken off. Like, he's that
Right.
kind of guy. He's a tough little dude. He's like a I don't know, like a fucking badger.
Mm-hmm.
He's a tough little dude. Whereas Baker's a little bit more swag, and I think it kind of works with a team like trying to find its identity again, because we don't have an identity anymore because we were the Tom Brady's new team. That was kind of the identity. We were doing the Tom Brady way, and now we're not. Now we're our own thing, and I think that's part of what the growing pains that we're going to have this year is trying to figure out who we are as a team. Are we going to go back to old football where we be a defensive team, and if we can develop a quarterback or quote unquote Dave Canales can turn him into what Geno Smith was last year, then yeah, sky's the limit, really. I mean, if someone gave me Geno Smith's numbers today and said that's what Baker's going to put, that's what Baker's going to do for you, I said, wow, we're in the playoffs.
I
That's
agree.
simple.
I think you're on the money. I just think that I'm a big person on watch the game, not the media. Watch the player. I don't care, even if
He is
it's
a disliked dude, isn't he? To be fair,
yeah,
by media in general,
yeah, and even for
he's
certain.
very Marmite.
You're right, but I'm the person where I challenge people. I don't give a damn if you even played in the league. Sometimes you could have played the game. That doesn't mean you necessarily know the game as well. Because there are certain guys that aren't good, that weren't that good in the NFL, but they're hell of analysis. And then you have the
Mm-hmm.
opposite. So I don't give a shit that such and such on TV said it. Well, he played this. Yeah, he was only in the league for like 4 years because he sucked too. So he definitely don't know what the hell he's talking about. I look at it like, yes, you're right. They don't like Baker. Now, football, he is a turnover sling, but he's a gunslinger. But I do think that he did win a playoff game, and not just win it. He embarrassed a Steelers team that I think in the beginning they were like 10-0 or some shit. Now we knew that was suspect, but it doesn't matter.
But they also have a good defense. They've always had a good defense.
But Baker did his thing too. Again, they did. You're right, but Baker
No,
still was.
I'm talking about he went
Steelers.
up against a good defense.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Coach Tomlin's always going to coach a good defense. That's a fact.
Yeah, we know that. Yes, he can go to the Hall of Fame alone by consistency of defense. But you're right. But Baker did that. Baker also, he was shining in LA when Stafford went out. I think it is, like you said, because of the little turnovers, but I do feel like the media, because the Shannon Sharps of the world said a lot about him in Carolina, but Carolina was a shitty dumpster fire team too. So, so that's where I would love to ask Shannon Sharp. Okay, so I'd have been like, well, Shannon,
about it.
Yeah, because I would be like, well, Shannon, if that was the case, we should have given up on Randy Moss when he was in Oakland. Oakland was a shitty team. When you are on a shitty organization, your 9 times out of 10, your stats are gonna reflect your team. He was on the Panthers. The Panthers were not good, guys. Let's be real. I know people thought that they were like getting hope. No, the NFC South was a joke. It's just that they looked like it because they were fighting for a coach, but it doesn't matter. They still were a bad team. So, with that being said, Baker is going to be just fine, I think. I like gunslingers because that also helps Mike Evans. He had his best years with a gunslinger. And sometimes that's what this team needs. So, for all you doubters out there, this is the identity, Slick. This is what I think. And this is a hot take. In the first, I say in the beginning, they're going to be a defensive smash mouth team because they have the defense is far more in set and they're ready than the offense will be. I think Canales is going to have growing pains. I think there are going to be certain games where he should have did this and should have done that, and we'll critique him as we should, but he's going to learn. Mm-hmm. Now, I do think the later on down the line, if it's successful, the identity will be a balance. So I think they're going to go by whichever side of the ball is doing better. That's what we're going to invest heavily on. Right now, they have to invest heavily on the defense because, one, that's Bo's position. Your job is to make sure this fucking defense is top 5. Anything like out of the 10, what's up? The offense will catch up. So the identity of this Bucs team right now, Bucs fans, it's going to be the defense. Slick has already said the Bucs defense is going to carry us a couple games, and I'm all right with that. I can live with that. It did it last year. Again,
last year, all we have to do is not put the ball in harm's way.
It don't put the ball in harm's way, and with the weapons that we have, I don't mind Baker taking those chances because that will light a fire. If this offense is scoring to a certain point where the defense goes, okay, well, shit, Baker made this mistake. We're gonna bail him out because we know he's gonna come back and be stronger. That's what you want your defense. You want your defense to feel he fucked up. We got him.
We got his back.
What you don't want is what last year where the defense is like, shit, I literally just got out there. Damn it. If I see another 3 and out, I'm going to lose it. I'm tired.
And I think people don't realize that Tom Brady may have not turned over the ball, but we went 3 and out a lot. And that is a turnover in possession. It's just the only difference is you get to kick the ball and put some distance between you. But then you rely on your special teams to make every single play because all it takes is that one, and it breaks down the side, and then all of a sudden it is just an interception. You know?
And you're mentally destroying the defense because, especially the philosophy, because Bo's love to do his dumbass cushion. So now the defense is tired, not just physically but mentally. And Slick has said this so many times that all it takes is that one hitch to be missed, and you're tired already, but you have so much cushion now. Oh, boom! I can catch this, a short one. And I'm still going to make this guy work, or I'm going to run a certain route where he's going to think I'm going to do this, and then I bite, and he bites, and now it's over. So the Bucs defense is going to be the key for the identity right now, and that's fine. You want that because we want to see what Devin is going to do. We know what Antoine is going to do. We know what Levante is going to do. We know what Vita's going to do. We want to see what Kancey's going to do. Let's be real. I'm excited for the fucking defense. I want to see what Kancey's going to do because from what I hear, if Kancey keeps up with the hype that they're talking about, oh my God, Vita Vea is going to buy him his lunch for the entire season. Can you just imagine? Let's think about this. What if offenses go, shit, somebody's got to double Kancey right now? Vita's going to go, Vita's just gonna lick his chops and go, all right, guys.
Here
All
we
right.
go.
I promise to be a little gentle. I'll throw some lube in there for your quarterback. But right now, that's his ass. Pause. But, you know what I'm saying? Can't see. I'm really and I'm also hopeful for Yaya. I want to
Yeah,
see.
me too. Me too.
I, I,
I've got a really strong feeling that he might beat out JTF.
man, that would be nice. Imagine him.
All I care about is having a pass rusher. If JTS wants to be a rotational guy, that's fine by me because his salary's not that big. He'll probably be, and he's what in his third year now.
Yep.
If it's not going to hit in the third year, it's probably not going to hit in the fourth
I
year. So,
agree. I agree
um,
100%. I agree. You are absolutely right,
I,
sir.
I, I want Yaya to do good, and I'm hoping to see a bit more of Nelson because I think he had a really good campaign last year, and I like to see him go almost get the keys for a bigger spot because we know that Shat Barrett might not be back in time. So I'd like to see a high rotation of those guys, and then once he's back, you end up with like a two punch with Yaya and Nelson,
I
and both of
agree.
them falling out.
You're right.
That,
I wouldn't mind seeing Nelson picking up where Will Golston left off. If Nelson doesn't end up being a pass rusher, it's for damn sure he's gonna take over the run. Because that's what we loved about Golston. Golston didn't always have to get to the quarterback, but you knew if they ran the ball, Golston 9 times out of 10 was the reason why he disrupted it. So Nelson, I believe in you. I think you have what it takes. So do that. But we look at all these defensive people we're naming. We haven't even gotten to Dean and Carlton Davis. I expect a lot. I think Dean is gonna shine, but Carlton, as I said, Carlton gets some hands, it's over. You might have to start talking about elite status for him.
yeah, if that guy could catch a ball, oh my lord, the amount of picks that he has dropped, it's insane.
Yes.
He would be knocking on all pro bowls every year for
Yes.
for at least the last 2 years minimum.
Yes. The last 2 years, first of all, if he gets that hands on you because he's a physical guy,
Yeah,
it's hard. I go back to the Super Bowl run. How he was locking down Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson had a fit with Carlton Davis. A lot of people don't want to admit that, but go back to that game. There was one play in particular where Justin Jefferson would have made a nice catch. Carlton swatted that shit. He was like, "Get that out of here!" And he was
yeah, he
making
did that.
Justin Jefferson uncomfortable. Carlton, and then another game where he shined is when he shut down Allen Robinson against the Bears. How he got that pick, and he was shadowing them all day. The secondary is no joke. Now we're gonna see what our guy next to Antoine Winfield will do, but we already know. I
He's
expect
already been
Antoine.
rated one of the best safeties in ball at the moment, though,
Yeah,
and that's it. So the Buccaneers hit big when they got him.
yes, I'm not going to be surprised if he has Defensive Player of the Year talks. That's what I expect out of Antoine Winfield this year because he's going to be zoned in. He's going to be that guy. He
Contract
reminds,
year,
yeah, he gives me
time to
Earl
get
Thomas.
paid.
He gives me Earl Thomas vibes. That's right, I said it, y'all. He gives me Earl Thomas vibes because he can hit and he can cover. Now, will he hit as hard as Earl? I don't know, but Antoine Winfield is a fundamental tackler too. I went back and watched some of his tackle slick.
Yeah, he's got a great tackle technique.
Yes, I love how
And
sometimes
he's very. I'm not going to try and break you because he's a bit smaller.
yeah,
I'm just going to get you down. I'm
yep.
getting you down.
I'm getting you that, and I love that's why I said Earl because a lot of people think Earl's like 6'2", 6'3". Earl Thomas was 5'10". So it's the similarities. So that's why I love it. So Buck fans, we have nothing to worry about. I don't give a shit about what people talking about. Oh, Whit Baker's trash, whatever. Trash people don't win playoff games all the time and blow out teams and come in there. He's gonna be just fine. I don't care about the turnover situation. Again, this is the best team he has been on. The best team offensively anyway. Evans is better than Cup. Calm your nerves, guys. Cup ain't been in the league long enough for that. Chill out. We're not to say that Cup is not a bad player, but again, that is the Los Angeles Rams. LA, they're gonna get the exposure, and he's a high volume guy too.
Yep.
And unlike and knock on, prayerfully, Evans is not injury prone like Cup. Like Evans will take off 2 plays at once, and then he'll be like, "All right, guys, I just need a little bit of water. He just needs some water, and then he's good to go."
There you go. That's what I think. A little bit
That
of get him back in.
Yep. And now, again, in the States, we got this 4th of July thing. We celebrating our independence and all that good stuff, and fireworks and celebration. But Bucks, we're gonna take a dark road, memory lane. But this is necessary because this is why I think after watching how the Bucks were in the dark years, this is why I know for a fact Jason Light's saying Jason Light is watching right now, y'all. Somebody in his organization is watching this because we're gonna take a trip down memory lane because he knows I do not want the Bucks to revert back to that, which a lot of the media thinks the Bucks are gonna go back to the dark years. So here we go, guys. So I got my drink ready because boy, oh boy, did I need this. Some of them times back in the day, I'm just glad they almost put me in AA meetings out of ridiculous shit show I seen. So this is what we call the yuck years, the yuck years. Boy, that was 2009 to 2016. Some people will arguably say 2019, but I'm going to go with 2016. Boy, let's just look at this. 2009, Slick, 313. Blick. Okay, 2010, 10 and 6. That was a false year. 2011, 4 and 12. And that's I'm going to get into that story because that was worse than 09. 2012, 7 and 9. 2013, 4 and 12. 2014, 2 and 14. We're going to talk about this shit. 2015, 6 and 10. And 2015, 6 and 10. And then 2016 season 9 and 7. Another false promise. Woo!
So I decided while we were talking, you might have seen me flipping my head a little bit while you were chatting away.
Yes, no problem.
I've gone through what I think are some of the toughest losses and a couple of the wins as well.
Yes.
2013, the Buccaneers lose to the Seahawks in overtime, 24-27. This was going to be the eventual Super Bowl champions. To lose, if that would have been a win, it'd been great. It turns out it's not. Then we go to 2014, a loss against the Saints, the season where we only had 2 wins, and we go to the Saints, last game of the season, and we lose 23-20 because we decide we're going to tank. And that hurt because it was the Aints that we decided to tank to. Of all the teams we could have tanked to, please don't let it beat the Aints. And you know what? That year we also beat the Saints, I believe.
Yes.
We beat Saints in Pittsburgh. We could have doubled and closed out the Aints.
Yep.
That one was a hard one to swallow. So then we go into 2015 and we get our new quarterback and it's fantastic. And then we play the first game of the season. They got their brand new quarterback who was the 2nd overall pick. We overlooked him. We said, we don't want you, Marcus Mariota, because we think you're going to get broken because you're just going to run everywhere. We got Jameis Winston and he's got swagger and we lose the game 14-42 and Jameis Winston's throwing picks everywhere and everyone's thinking, did we just fuck up? Luckily, time is on our side in this, and history does prevail, and both quarterbacks are considered busts at this point. We go to 2016, and we get knocked out of the playoffs. This is the season where we had 9 wins, and all we had to do was just win 1, and it was the Saints in a 31-24 game. That was a kick in the teeth. But then there was a little glimmer of light, because in the following season, we beat the Saints, and the last game of the season, to piss off them, I believe they still went to the playoffs, but we punched them in the nose a little bit as they went down that door and eventually fucked up against the Vikings or whoever.
Yep, the Vikings.
The Vikings. But we got to see a little look at a future of Chris Godwin, who has the walk-off touchdown to win the game. Then we go into another win, which is literally back-to-back wins if you technically put this. This is the last game of one season, the first game of the other season. It's that shootout versus the Saints, the Fitzpatrick magic. We're all on it. Jameis Winston's been suspended, and there's quarterback controversy, but it took was someone's defense had to step up, and luckily it was ours, and we win 48-40. Then it was the 2019 Falcons lost in overtime that kicked us out of the playoffs. That season of the 30 for 30, all we had to do was win 1 and you're in. We couldn't because Jameis Winston just kept throwing picks, and in OT, he throws a pick 6 to finish off our season, and it is goodbye, Jameis. And then the king comes to Tampa. We believe, we're full of hope, we're thinking, okay, this year's going to be a figure it out kind of year. The next year is when we're really going to get going, because it was COVID year and what have you. Worst loss, it was the Saints' second game where we put up 3 points to their 38, and it is just downright ugly. However, the good win on that one was the Chargers fight back, 38-31, where we looked like we had no hope winning that game, and we turn it on at halftime and bring it back. Then we go to 2020. All the wins in the playoffs were fantastic. That was when football was at its best. Then we go to 2021. That Rams loss was a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah.
I would have lived if we just lost the game. It was how we lost the game, and that we were so close to finishing it out. That's what made it a hard one to swallow.
Yeah.
And then also in 2021, we lose to the Saints 9-0 in a game that was just shit to watch.
Yes, it was.
It was just shit to watch. And then we go into next year. This following year, for me, the hardest loss for me is probably Cincinnati, because we were so far up at one point. We looked like we were cruising in that game, and we're like, wow, the Bucs have turned the corner. I believe we weren't too far from coming back from Germany with the win that we just got against the Seahawks. Since he come to town, we've been absolutely killing them, and then over at halftime, it is just done, all over. But the shining light was we knocked out the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
That, for me, from the moment I became a Bucs fan to this date, are my favorite win. Some of my favorite wins and notorious hated losses.
Damn, man, you covered a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna break it down to first, I'm just gonna throw these players out here, and then we're gonna break it down.
Yeah, we're gonna talk some players as well. I'm cool with that.
You have Josh Freeman, Mike Williams, Doug Martin. Oh yeah, I'm about to throw it back.
Muscle hamster.
Yes. Kellen Winslow, Levante David, Aqib Talib, Gerald McCoy, Brian Price. Woo, that's a sad story. But Tanar Jackson, Donald Penn, Vincent Jackson, LeGarrette Blunt. Man, I know y'all like, damn. And that's the crazy thing. Despite the Michael Bennett's of the world, despite having Geno Hayes, despite having the shitty dark ages, we had fun now. But I just want to go to the 10-6 record. That was the false hope, because that was the year Josh Freeman threw 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That was also the rookie year, that Mike Williams had 964 yards and 11 touchdowns. And I thought, wow, he would be the next. I thought he was going to be the next big thing for the Bucs. I thought he was going to be what Michael Clayton should have been. But that was just a false year for us, guys. I think that year, honestly, people just didn't give the Bucs no shot after 2009. So that one, it hurt, because that was a false sense of security for me. And this is why I say the next season, 4 and 12 hurt, because the Bucs started off at 4-0, where people were like, "Oh shit, this team is actually on the rise," and then we lose 10 straight. 10 straight. That's when the Raheem Era things was coming to an end. The Brian Price situation, he got into a fight with Mark Barron, apparently, or something, and somebody got stolen in the mouth, and then Brian Price got ejected from the game. One game, I remember that. And then Raheem Morris got fired. And then we bring in, now this to me was the worst regime, Greg Schiano. Just, that was the era where I said, we have no fucking directions. Like, I literally was in bars saying, what are we? I don't understand. This is no man's land. This is some Washington Redskins shit. And people were laughing. I'm like, no, seriously. This is what are we doing? Are we just a professional team? We went 7-9, but I'm sitting here like, that was just because we still had talent. And the funny thing is, the Schiano years, That was Levante, where I said Levante's that guy. Levante did everything. He could blitz. He would pick you off. He was a that's what pissed me off. We wasted a lot of Levante's prime years in that era because I remember they utilized him for everything. Uh, and then of course 2013 was no better. Um, we finally fired Shiano, but there were some games that were fun, but it's just right now I'm just thinking about the shitty years. We gotta get that out the way. 2004, the 2014 with Lovie Smith, Jesus, that was bad. The game that I remember so bad, and this is a quick little story. Slick, I was out with my homies, and they had girls. We were trying to talk, and I was trying to have a good vibe, and I was a diehard fan. This was a Thursday night game. This is the game where the Bucs was getting beat in the beginning, 42-0. You want to talk about upset and embarrassed because I was in the bar saying, "Yeah, that's my squad. The Bucs are gonna be the Bucs." It was every score. They was like, "Damn, damn." And then one of the girls that was there, the Bucs did a completion. They said, "See, AJ, that's good. They're gonna get back into the game." The entire dudes in the back were laughing hard. Then they were snickering. I was so embarrassed. And then she was like, "Yeah, see, they just scored." And then she cheered. Oh, it made it even worse. I was just sitting back like, take the Bucs out to the back of the woodshed after that. Lovie Smith, literally it was like you said, the game against Ravens, we get smacked in the fourth. It's like every time when Lovie was with us, we were getting
I
blown
was
the
at that
fuck
game
out.
as well.
So Lovie, he was another one who didn't have direction, but he had a vision, but it was just outdated. And then his quarterbacks, when he had Josh McCown in there, I was like, why are we doing this? But here's my memories of good memories. That 2014 game, we beat the Redskins. I was at my boy's house and I was talking shit. I said, "Hey, y'all," he was saying, "Man, the Bucs suck." I said, "I bet you we beat y'all." That was the game Mike Evans went off. 2 touchdowns because they put a linebacker on him, which was disrespectful. He literally just went, and went past him and scored. And then the second one, he just had a deep ball and just was, yeah. So that was my fun era back then for that game. And then of course we got Winston, like you said, when we tanked for the I was ashamed. I ain't gonna lie, Slick. Somebody was like, "No, they didn't tank." I said, "No bullshit. We tanked because we knew we was gonna go
Took our
get
stars
Winston."
out
Yeah, I knew. I said,
when the
"Oh my
game
god,
is on the line.
yes," because we should have beaten them. And like you said, we would have closed them out and swept them. I knew in my heart. I told everybody, "Nah." I said, "Guys, we tanked." They said, "You think so?" I said, "Oh no, it's a fucking guarantee. They tanked on purpose." And then let's go with this. But like you said, we didn't talk about the decade. Let's go to these players. What was your assessment on Josh Freeman? I want to know, how did you
I
feel
mean,
about
I
Josh?
only got to see 1 year of him, so
Okay,
I don't have a huge amount to say about him. He looked like he had genuine talent. Like,
you did.
obviously, you don't do he didn't do what he did in that is it 2010 season?
Yes, 2010,
Right.
25 touchdowns, 6
That
interceptions.
you anybody would think that they've got a franchise QB at that point. Like,
Facts.
it'd be like if Baker does that this year, we'd be thinking, damn, okay, this
Mm-hmm.
guy's legit.
You're right. You're right. Well, the thing
So,
about Josh, you want to know what his problem is? Josh wasn't a finisher. That's why. Now, I'm going to tell you this, Slick. When the game was on the line, I'm not going to lie. A lot of times he was hit or miss. He was a Jameis Winston, not for turnover ratio, but for finishing. Because the 2010 season, there was a game that we would have definitely gotten the playoffs, but he fucked up, and it was the Panthers game. There was the second time we played him. He literally threw a pick six, almost not pick six, but he literally threw an interception where the corner, I can't think of his name, but he played for the Bucs later on eventually. That killed our hope, but it was an awful throw. His decision making when the game was on the line was hit or miss, like Jameis. And then his off the field extracurricular activities just fucked us up. Like he would go to gun ranges and shoot and had like a little burn on his hand, and Shiano didn't like him. Antonio Bryant, the receiver, didn't like him. So it was
he
just a
just
lot.
didn't fit.
Yeah, it was a shit show. And again, Mike Williams, whatever. For that reason, Mikes are good in the Bucks. Michael Clayton, Mike Williams, Mike Evans, whatever. We love some Mikes in the Bucks. And Mike was consistent because 964 his rookie season, 11 touchdowns, not bad. 2012, 996, 9 touchdowns. He was good, but he was another one where if these guys didn't have a consistent rhythm, they weren't closers. But I liked Mike Williams. He was good for a while. Do you remember Mike Williams?
Yeah, he was pretty solid, to be fair. I
He
mean,
was.
I think they drafted him in a not a particularly great spot, did they? So they got good value for him.
Yeah, he was a fourth round pick because they thought Aurelius Ben was going to be better. And in the training camp, people were saying, "Wow, Mike Williams is actually much better." So Mike Williams was that guy. And then I want to go into this because this was a damn shame. Doug Martin, muscle hamster, was his rookie year was the best. I literally thought that he was going to take off 1,454 yards and 11 touchdowns. And he had his greatest game was against the Raiders when he ran for like 258 yards, but he ran for like three 50 plus yard runs. He was that guy.
Would you say that the Buccaneers kind of gave up a little bit on Mike Williams? I'm just looking at the stats now, and he finishes off his Tampa Bay career at the age of 25.
Yeah.
Played 16 games, had 16 starts, just shy of 1,000, 9 touchdowns. And then he goes the next season, only has 5 starts, but only plays 6 games. So he obviously got injured.
Yes.
They should have stuck with him, really, right?
They should have, but I think at that point, after the Raheem era, that's when the fucking owners decided.
Could you imagine him, Mike Evans, and Vincent Jackson? That could have happened. It was 2000. This was 2013. He played for Buffalo the following year, so it was very much on the cards. It could have been done.
Yeah.
But who knows? Contract negotiations. Maybe his agent felt like this guy's almost had 1,000 yards twice, and he's been putting up numbers. You got to pay premium, and they might went, nah, we'll just draft Mike Evans.
Right, and I do in a way. It makes sense but then I don't know because I was expecting a lot from him when he went to Buffalo and he didn't do anything. But that also he didn't have the consistent quarterback either. Because one thing about Freeman, if you were open or you were his guy, Mike Williams had spectacular games. One of his best games was when we played the Cardinals in the desert. And there's another running back I'm going to bring up in a second, but I want to hold that. But Mike Williams was that. Yeah, but Doug Martin, he had two solid years. Rookie season in 2015. 2015, he ran for 1,402 yards and 6 touchdowns. And that was honestly the most complete offense that Jameis Winston had because Jameis Winston actually had still a solid rookie season because he had a run game with balance.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. But then when Doug just did the shit that he did and just burnt out, that we didn't have a 1,000-yard running back ever since. So it's
still don't. Hopefully this is the year.
Oh, it's gonna be. Rachaad White will run for 1,100 and something yards, 1,100 yards. I'm giving him 1,100. I don't see him getting anything over because they're gonna eventually become past because of the receiving core. But
and that's what you want in your game because obviously teams that have run heavy, who are run first and only run first, they don't do anything in the playoffs.
Exactly. So we're gonna throw that out. Now I know you want to get to this running back, and I'll let you take it away. LeGarrette Blount.
I'm actually a big fan of LeGarrette Blount, and the fact that he was an undrafted draft pick out of Oregon.
Boise. Oregon. You're right. Oregon. I'm thinking of Boise because he sucked the dude from Boise.
Yeah. But Doug Martin was from Boise, wasn't he?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Name for fighting. He's a big boy. I think the thing that let him down for the Bucs, I think it was an organizational thing to a degree because once he went to an organization that had a bit more about it, he started to play better. Even when he was in Pittsburgh, he was decent.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as he went to the Patriots, they found the best role. They turned him into a role player, and then they turned him into a bit of a feature back. Then he goes, the guy's got fucking 3 rings. 3 rings.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize he won in New England and in Philly.
But it's not like he was just an ensemble piece. He was that dude, like for them, like he was the starting. I don't think in his first one he was the starting running back. The second one he definitely was.
Yeah.
There were playoff. He had 4 touchdowns in the playoff games or something like that. I remember in one game because they just run it. Oh, we're at the 4. Garrett.
Like Garrett Blunt. Yeah, he was utilized the right way, but you're right. My biggest memory of LeGarrette, his best game he ever had as a Buccaneer was in the desert against the Cardinals. And when he did those big ass leaps and he jumped over the dude and the other guy hit the other defender. He loved doing them big ass jumps. That was his best game ever as a Buck, but his best run, I wish we could have showed it, was against the Packers, where he broke like 6 tackles and was just running through Bama's. Yeah, LeGarrette Blunt had the potential, but you're right, Slick. It was an organization thing, and I think that his agent probably said, "You don't want to be in this cesspool of shit. Let's get you out of here where you're going to be appreciated too." And also, he didn't want to be ran the ground. I'm sure that LeGarrette was like, "Yeah, I saw how y'all did Cadillac Williams. We're not going to go. We're not going to be. You're not going to do it to me." And he went to organizations and won. One of my favorites though was seeing him in Philly because he was sort of, in my opinion, on his last legs there, but he did his job.
Yeah,
So LeGarrette, like you said, LeGarrette was he.
he
They knew what
signed
he
really
was.
late as well, or traded or something. I can't remember.
I think he was traded
He
late.
came, came in. He came to them very, very late.
Yeah, and he
They,
helped out
who did they have? Oh shit!
Ajayi. They had
Yeah,
Ajayi.
Jay Ajayi,
Yeah, and
and
Ajayi
he
was
just
good.
couldn't do it in the playoffs. He just wouldn't go. Like it's almost like he stagnated. And then they
Mhm.
just went, okay, LeGarrette, we're going to give it to you. And he's like, okay, let's go.
And then he turned up. Yeah.
Yep.
So LeGarrette Blunt was one of my guys. And then I have to talk about this guy for just 2 seconds. I know he's a fucking crazy ass person, and I'm glad he's in jail because the shit that he did was unspeakable. But Kellen Winslow was all right for a time being. I remember when we got him. I did like the fact that he had a lot of fight in him, and he had a lot of like he wanted the best for his team, but of course he was just too much in his head. But my biggest thing about him, his ego was always the best of him because even in Miami, he was always like that because they literally have like this clip that was viral for him when he was like, "I'm a soldier," and it's like, Kellen, just chill. You're because yeah, just relax, man. Just relax. We get it. You want to break out of your father's shadow because his father, I think, is the actual Kellen Winslow. But he had his moments. But my other man that I think he had another off field issues was Aqib Talib. Aqib Talib, I'm gonna be real. At that time, his like one of his last seasons with the Bucs, he was an elite corner. You couldn't. He did everything you could ask. Aqib Talib was that guy. Damn, come to think about it, we had a lot of knuckleheads on our squad in them times because
Yeah.
this other guy, to me, he was Antoine Winfield before Antoine Winfield. Tanard Jackson.
Hmm.
Tanard Jackson had the potential to be an elite safety. He just couldn't put down the green. And I don't get it. If you're paying me right now, they could tell me to stop drinking and smoking for an entire season. I'd be like, I'm good to go.
That's
I
good.
look, I'd be like, you know what? Fine. The only green I need is vegetables. That's all I'm saying. Liquid, I got water. So what? And I like Donald Penn. Donald
Hmm.
Penn to me was Tristan Wirfs with more with a more personality. Donald Penn, honestly, if Donald Penn was on this Buck squad with Brady and them, Brady still be playing because Donald Penn was the best left tackle we ever had,
Hmm.
in my opinion. He was a lot better than Jeremy Trueblood and then shit. But yeah, and then of course we got to go to Vincent Jackson. But I'll let you talk about Vincent. What was your fondest memories of Vincent?
Vincent Jackson was the first Buccaneer player I watched and went, wow. That was pretty much the set. I never got myself a Vincent Jackson jersey. I could just never get hold of one. Got a couple of mics, and then we got Mike, who literally seemed like a carbon copy
Mm-hmm.
of Vincent Jackson, and then he breaks out. I'm like, okay, we got two of the same dude. That's fine. Works great for us. And then Mike just did more and did more and did more, and then Vincent Jackson kind of shrunk, and God rest his soul. You know, it is what it is.
No, you're right. Vincent did his job though. He mentored
Oh,
Mike.
he was special as well. But
Yes.
I think we played a good premium for him, but I think the payoff you can't guarantee. I mean, you don't know what went. It'd be interesting to read Mike Evans' memoirs or his book when he does finally hang it up, or an interview, like a story of his life, like his 30 for 30 you were saying earlier. I do really wonder like what was the impression and what was the relationship like between them two, because they are so alike in their size, the build, the way they played was very, very similar. Vincent Jackson was also a very underappreciated wide receiver for what he was, but was one of the dominant forces of his time. He just wasn't as appreciated because he played in San Diego for a long time, and then he chose the Buccaneers, which again isn't going to help you.
Nope, you're
Um,
right. And also, he was overshadowed in San Diego. You had the Antonio Gates, you had the LaDainian Tomlinson, Phillip Rivers, you had Merriman. So it was too many other personalities that were bigger. Vincent Jackson was Mike Evans-esque. They both lead by example, more quiet. Like they are vocal when they need to be. But I would love
Vincent
to.
Jackson huge for community as well.
Yes, and he supported the military, but that was another thing. Can you imagine if Mike Evans and Vincent stayed on the same page and they both played at the same level? Because you're right, I do love, and that's why I really started saying, "Wow, I fuck with Evans harder now," because Evans surpassed Vincent. Like you said, the things that we were asking Vincent to do, Mike Evans took it a step further,
Yeah, I mean,
and
you look at what we did with him. Like he had 2,000 yard season, 3,000 yard seasons with us.
yep,
8 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns in his career. He's got 6,000 yard seasons, which is nothing to be to nothing to cry about. And that's just really good stuff.
that's very good stuff. And Vincent just so yeah, thank you, Vincent. Thank you. Vincent, I got your jersey because I had to. I was like, yo, this dude is official. And that was arguably one of the biggest free agents we signed at that time because like everybody knew back in the day the Glazers were being stingy and they didn't want to pony up the money. So to get a guy of that caliber, because he was the man in San Diego. I like that they took that risk, and like you said, he produced for us. He was very good, and again, Vincent, thank you for everything that you did for us because that's what's up. I mean, I really do like it. I remember Geno Hayes; he was pretty good with us. Quincy Black before he got that neck injury, so that hurt. The Bucs, like I said, I talk about the dark years, Bucs fans, because we have to appreciate what we have and just know how far we've come. But also, there were some good times in those. A lot of the bad moments, there are good times in between. You just have to look hard and just go, wow. All those players that I mentioned, they were talented. It's just the organization wasn't ready. That's all. I mean, and then certain players did it to themselves, like Freeman, Doug Martin, Tanar Jackson, Brian Price, Akeem
Remember, if you
Talib.
don't have that 2013 season, Mike Evans never turns up to this squad.
Exactly, guys. That's why things happen for a reason. If let's say if Jameis Winston gets the Bucs to the playoffs, I mean, now granted we don't know what he'd have done,
Yeah, I
but
mean, granted, we talk, and I say like one of the most painful things was to see us lose to the Falcons in overtime. And all he had to do was not throw a pick six, and we would have. And he moves the ball up and down the field enough. Well, moves the ball up the field enough that we do score and we do finish off that game. I believe they had the ball, we stopped them, and we were driving. So all we had to
yeah,
do was get a field goal at this point, and it's done. Um, it never happens. The pick six happens. They win. But like you said, had James Winston win that game, does that make Bruce Arians think he's worth keeping? I don't think it does because I think he was sick and tired of the interceptions. I think Bruce Arians, from what I remember reading, was expected the interceptions at the beginning of the season, but that second half of the season, I wanted to see them less. Like I wanted to see, okay, we start the season out, you've thrown 10. Now I want 5.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I didn't get that. What I got was more.
Yes, you got more.
So I got more, and I'm not happy about it. So I completely. I think he would have been gone anyway. But it depends. What about the playoff run? Oh, we got to the playoffs and we won a playoff game. That completely changes it because you're like, we have a playoff winning quarterback, especially if he figures it the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
And let's
Look,
say he has a playoff game. We go to a playoff game. We win the playoff game, and he throws
yep.
one pick or he throws no picks. You go into the next game and we just lose because we just weren't good enough on defense, or like we just made some mistakes, but it wasn't him giving the ball away. So it was just like a team loss.
Right.
Then you go, okay, well, I'm against a very good team because you're now in the divisionals. You're not playing weak teams. You're playing against a team that's had who's either first or second, because back then it was only 6 teams in the playoffs, right?
Right.
You won your wild card weekend against number 4 or number 3. Now you're going to go and play the number 2 spot or the number 2 spot or the number 1 spot. That's a fact. That number 1 spot, I can't remember who it was at the time because I can't remember. It's a while. Yeah, I can't remember. But you go against a team that's really, really good. It could have been San Francisco 49ers, if I remember correctly. We could have played them, lost to them. Nobody lost. They go on to the Super Bowl. Obviously, what happens.
Right. Nobody cares. Nobody.
Yeah. Nobody cares. But when you lose to the team that wins the championship, it doesn't feel as bad because you're like, okay, we lost to the eventual champion. So, at least we didn't lose to a team that flamed out next week.
Right. And that's why it's crazy, because this is why we have to sometimes go. We have to take the good with the bad, guys. You don't if and like Slick said, if let's say if Brady wasn't available, now you put yourself in a bigger spot, because what if Winston gets word that he's not wanted anymore? Now now you better hope you find another quarterback to replace him, or you make amends with Winston. But it happened for a reason. That took us to the Brady, and again, it's not just the Super Bowl. The 2021 season, that's one of the arguably best offense. I don't give a shit what nobody says. Statistically, I know that the Rams were ranked better, but they weren't a better offense than the Bucs. But I want to go back to what you were saying about if Winston gets in the playoffs, because this resonates with Baker. Guys, every player isn't about stats. You got some guys that just knows how to turn that shit on when it's important and when it's time. We don't know. What if Baker turns it on? Another example, I give you this. Now, let me ask you this. Running back wise, the game's on the line. You need a first down, and it ain't that it's not 4th and inches, Slick. It's 4th and 3, but you're going to run it anyway. Who you giving the ball to? Adrian Peterson or Marshawn Lynch?
Marshawn Lynch.
I ain't forcing to say that, guys. I just have to say that because I got some friends out there who are probably gonna be like, "You made him say that shit."
I get Adrian Peterson's that he's a home run hitter more than say Marshawn is, but Marshawn is the kind of guy who's going to get you that.
Marshawn is a finisher, right? I like Adrian Peterson to get me those stats.
They only needed to get 1 yard and they would have won a fucking another Super Bowl.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Beast mode, and he picked how he ran. He looked like he would get stopped in the beginning, but that's because he played it. No, I want to wear them out eventually, because what's going to happen, I'm going to go into beast mode at the end, and then by the time they get there, they're worn down. He wears you down.
Yeah, that's when you want to run the football, because that's when people don't want to tackle. That's when people are tired. That's when the block shedding's harder.
Yep, agreed. And Adrian Peterson, he'll go off on you like in the first and second quarter, where you're like, shit, this guy got 98 yards in the first half, but then he wears himself out. So then by the third and fourth quarter, now he can't even get at full steam, and then he had fumbling issues. Marshawn didn't. So that is why I say Marshawn turned it on. Marshawn might not have the stats of AP, but you know what the best that he has? He's a Super Bowl champion.
Yep.
And he was a part of it. So that's why I say for Buck fans about the Bakers and the Jameses, we don't know. Those guys were winners when it counted. They weren't the stats guys. I never expected Jameis to be a 30 touchdown guy with 7 interceptions. I just, like you said, hope shit he can overcompensate and just be under 17 picks, but
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't him. Baker though, Baker, if he gets in the playoffs with this team, it's another game. He can.
Here's one for you. I like to add. I got 2 points. First one
Yep,
about Marshawn LeGarrette Blount. It's a poor man's Lynch.
there it is. There it is.
He's Lynch, just not quite as good.
Yep. Okay.
He
I
was Lynch.
like that. I got it.
They kind of ran the same way. They kind of had the same build. They're both big guy. They're both like really meaty blokes.
North and South runners.
Yeah, North and South runners. No fucking, no fuck. It's fuck around and find out. Not
Yes, and I'm gonna and they both put their shoulders into your chest. It ain't about trying to just do this little bullshit. No, I'm trying to run you over. So the next
they're both hurdle too as well.
Oh yeah, big time hurdlers. Big time hurdlers.
They remind me of the same player. Just one was a bit more talented. Potentially, maybe had a better offensive line. There's an argument there.
Yeah, well, I just think overall that you're right. Marshawn was just overall better because he did everything better, like you said. He could maneuver better, and he was more shiftier. But in basically the LeGarrette's defense, LeGarrette was also much bigger too. LeGarrette was a more swifter Brandon Jacobs, but he was still fucking huge. I remember LeGarrette was like 248. I'm like, damn, shit. Like you might as well get on the line and be a tight end. Shit. But what was your
second point is we have to remember they brought a bit of a diva over to Cleveland. Can you imagine being in that locker room and you've got a Odell Beckham Jr. who's doing? Do you remember the shit that he was doing? His dad was coming out and saying, "Look how he's missing him here. Look how he's not targeting him." If his dad's doing that, imagine what's going on in the fucking meeting rooms. Imagine what's going on in his ear. Imagine what's going on when they're on the sideline. He's not going to have any of that. He's going to have a bunch of cats. The most unselfish wide receiver in football who did not complain that they brought in another wide receiver that was hella fucking good in Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And his reps went down south real quick.
Yep.
So, and he was just like, I don't care. I want my ring. He wanted to win. That's all that matters. Because you can go back, you can go and sign to another team and go and I'm just going to pad stats. I'm just going to pad stats. I'm just going to pad stats.
Mm-hmm.
But that Super Bowl ring is legacy. That Super Bowl ring is something not many people have. I mean, only a set of people win them every year. There's probably wide receivers out there who've got a couple of rings because they bounced around teams and what have you. But no one can say they had the impact on a team like a Mike Evans did. There isn't that many of those guys out there.
Calvin doesn't have one. Randy Moss doesn't have one. Terrell Owens doesn't have one. Those are literally the top. I just gave you top wide receivers of all time. Yeah. So that's what we're saying, guys.
There's a fair few guys out there that just don't have them.
They don't have them.
Antonio Brown's ring, as good as he wasn't there from start to finish. It's got a bit of a taint to it.
Yeah, you know? it's an icing on the cake.
But Shady McCoy's got two Super Bowl rings. Is that correct?
Yes, he does. The Chiefs.
One more thing. How much work did he put in on both of them? Nothing. So when it comes to his legacy, and I'm not saying he's a bad player because he was the dude at one point.
Yes, he was.
The issue is those Super Bowl rings. I was like, oh, you need a ring. Yes, but you need to have done something on the team to have with that ring. You can't just have if you've got 5 fucking Super Bowls because you were a third in the depth chart for 5 years and you went on a playoff run for fucking 5 years or what have you. You being in the Patriots, I'm pretty sure if you look through fucking Wikipedia, you can find somebody on their roster who's got a ridiculous amount of Super Bowl rings that did next to nothing.
No, and they'll sit there and they'll tell you, hey, I ain't do shit, but look, I still got them and I got checks. So
and they worked hard in the practices and they helped the scout teams and they had their moments when they had their moments. But when you're looking at a legacy, when you're talking about a Hall of Fame career, your Super Bowl rings have to have your impact on them. You can't just have a Super Bowl ring.
Nope, you're right.
Gone. Okay, I was the running back on the 2014 Super Bowl where I ran the football for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I had 100 yards and 25 yards receiving the ball and another touchdown. No fumbles. That is, you can turn around and go, there's my tick. And it's not just in the Super Bowl itself, it's also the playoff games and that season. So if you have if you turn around and go, I had 300 yards all season. Playoffs, I had about 50 yards all the way through. Super Bowl, I barely touched the ball, and I got about 2 touchdowns throughout the entire season, and I didn't fumble. No one's going to turn around and go, yeah, man, you belong in the Hall of Fame. It doesn't matter if you got 10,000 yards before that.
Right.
Your ring has to ring with you.
Absolutely. And then also, like you said, you got to be among your peers. Mike Evans was still, he might not social media or sports wise, but the numbers, oh shit, you were up there with such and such. You did all of this during this. You're absolutely right. So you're for Buck fans and sports people who love the game, you have to you have to contribute big. You can't just be the guy, oh, I did this for 2 seconds. No, people are gonna look at them and say, hey, you were just there. Deal with it. Nothing wrong with that, but you were just there.
I mean,
You weren't that guy.
You can't fault the work that they probably put in preseason throughout the games and stuff because we're no fucking football players. We don't know. I'm just saying when you add it to a legacy, like Shady McCoy's got X amount of yards. So because his numbers are Hall of Fame esque.
Yes.
They're not in there's an argument to put him in. And the one thing they'll always say is he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. Well, he then got his Super Bowl ring. The problem is his Super Bowl rings don't stack against his resume because he didn't do much in those seasons. Had he pulled out and he was he I don't know, let's say they had a 2-headed fucking running back and he was the other dude and he got 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. It's not monumental, but you were a vital piece of that team.
Right.
Yeah. Even if you're the backup dude and you're getting a good amount of yardage,
Ronald Jones is a perfect example. He produced just enough the Super Bowl year. We know Leonard was that guy.
He can stack that on his resume because he was a big part of that Super Bowl season. And same with Leonard Fournette.
Yep. So you got it. You're on it. And with that being said, Buck fans, this is why we just wanted to go back and we just gotta look at the past because we've been in the dumps, but we also knew how to get out of it and we had fun while we were doing it. But this is why I wanted to bring these bad times up, Bucks, because trust me, this is why I have a lot of faith in Jason Light, because those guys remember those days. Jason Light wasn't around, but he sees it. And the Glazers damn sure knows what it's like. You just had the GOAT on your team. You had all the media. You had everything at your disposal, good or bad. So the Glazers know, I made a lot of money. They know we can't go back to the days the yuck days, the yuck days. They know this. That's why they're putting all their faith into Bowles and the organization and the coaches saying, look, don't make a fool out of us. That's why I tell people, put it this way, if the Bucs win less than 7 games and they were healthy, it's going to be heads will be rolling because they're going to say, well, wait a minute. You got this squad. You only lost a few people. What the fuck? So, Buck fans, that's why I'm telling you, it's not going to be, don't listen to the media. Of course, the narrative will change because watch what happens. Let's say this. What if the Bucs' first 6 games, they're 4-2? I bet you, and Baker's a part of that. And Baker only has 3 interceptions at that time.
They'll jump on the train.
They'll switch. Yeah, they'll switch it. That's what they do. Quick. Yep.
That's what media does. They wait till a team gets crowned like the team, and they go, "Oh yeah." Now there'll be a couple of people who want to. When you're having these debates, you don't want everyone to go gush. You want some people to go, I don't believe they're going to. Remember when we got to the playoffs when we won the Super Bowl? There were people saying Steve Smith Senior was one of them.
Oh yes.
They're basically saying they're going to be one and done. They're just not that good. They're just not good enough. My least favorite person, and I like his stuff. I just didn't like how he spoke about the Bucs and said, the Buccaneers are a country club of talent, and that's all they are. And that was Colin Cowherd.
Yes.
And I was like, and then as soon as we win the Super Bowl, it was the Brady effect. It was this and is that. And
yes, I do remember
but dude, you did just say we're a country club worth of fucking talent. So
yeah, I remember. You are absolutely right.
Learning how to win, there's a big difference.
Yes, and I love that. You're right, because before the Super Bowl, they were talking about Mahomes is just gonna magically just shoot it out and then sling and beat the Bucs, despite missing 2 vital linemen. While I was telling people common sense, you have you
We
have
hadn't beaten them. We had them. If there was more time in the game we played against them, we would have had them beat.
exactly,
That's a
and that's
fact.
why I told people. But even when the two linemen were down, I said you do realize you have Shaq Barrett on the other side and JPP. Backup doesn't want to deal with those two. And what it
Peter
and then,
Bayer.
but then you're right. When the Bucs did win, all of a sudden, wow, the Bucs defense was just dominant. See, I knew that was coming in the game. They were doing it. Those guys released the Hounds of Hell. I'm like, oh, now all of a sudden we released the Hounds of Hell. But before
And then
that,
they were clever though. They always do that thing. I think Mahomes will win with his swagger and stuff, but he'll have problems he'll have problems with his line. But I think he'll persevere and he'll just shoot
you're
out.
right. And I'm sitting here like, are you guys out of your fucking mind? Put it this way: if Mahomes would have beaten that team by single handedly, I would have said that's the GOAT. If he would have single handedly just dismantled that Bucs defense like that, because again, this was when Devin was playing at a Fred Warner level, and again, Levante was Levante. We know that. Vita Vea was a dog. So wait, if he would have single handedly won that game, then yes, you could have said, "Oh, Mahomes
Tyreek Hill. Where
ready."
was Tyreek Hill? Shut down.
Shut down. Where was Kelsey? Shut down. Levante by himself. And the only reason, and I love this because Kelsey got garbage yards. I love that shit. When people say, "Oh, well, he had this," yeah, because
He
we
got
let him.
89. He got 89 yards. And I went, but in what quarter?
And right,
In quarter number 3 and 4, and I went, what? When the game was lost?
yeah, the game was over after the Fournette run. The game was a wrap. When Fournette ran that in, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely game." And we literally was giving cushion coverage when Kelsey caught the ball. I'm like, okay, he's padding the stats. And so, guys, again, this is why the good times. I want to remind you the bad times because if you don't think that this organization is going to try their best to keep from repeating 2009 to 2016 or 2017 the way certain people they're not going to allow that shit to happen anymore. First of all, they made too much money. They ain't trying to lose that money. They got a good taste on when Brady came in. These 3 years are probably the best years that the Bucs ever grossed since the 90s with Dungy. They're not trying to lose that money, and maybe Gruden, but they ain't trying to lose that money. They lost a lot of money for the past like 10 years before Brady got here. Oh, they ain't. We had blackout fucking games. Oh, trust me, the Glazers are not gonna go back to that. That family is like, oh hell no, by any means. If we got to fire
But
somebody,
one of those teams that people were considering going to be one of those was going to be one of the London teams
right?
when they were talking about because it's always going to be the London team if they do ever have one.
Yep.
It's going to be a franchise that just can't get going and just can't afford it, which is why the Jags are always in that thing because they make so much money at these games. Did you know that the Jags make a quarter of their revenue just from one London game? Their entire revenue comes from one London game.
See,
like a quarter of it, like 25% of your money that you make is made off one game.
See, there you have it. Thank you for that stat, Slick. I love it. See, you guys, Buck fans, trust me. The game at the end of the day, especially for owners, is about the dinero, about the money. They're not gonna let that shit happen. They're not
And of
gonna
course, they want
allow.
to walk in with their owners Super Bowl rings with all the other owners, because that's the price, isn't it? That's what you walk in there. You got Jerry Jones with his, you got Bob Kraft with his, and then you got Shad Khan with none. You got
Right.
but that's what it is, and you can sit there with your Cuban cigar or whatever cigar you smoke or whatever you want, what fine cognac you're drinking, that 30-year cognac that only rich people could, me and you could only dream of tasting. They're sat there with a nice
Yep.
cigar that costs close to a couple of $100 and a glass of whiskey or something like that costs close to $1,000. Just sat there drinking, showing off their rings because that's what it's about.
Yeah, and then they say, "Oh man, better luck next year," and then sip it even more. So you're right. Again, these owners have egos too, not just the money. The money is nice, but it's egos because, like you said with Jerry, yeah, he can show off his early 3 rings, but then somebody else can say, "Motherfucker, that was in Clinton era. When y'all gonna win again?"
We got these two before after that.
Exactly. So it matters. That's why Bucks. Trust me, I know it looks bleak, but that's because of the narrative. The narrative wants you to think without the GOAT. Even though we saw the GOAT last year and he wasn't GOAT-esque. He had GOAT-esque moments, but he wasn't who he was. So don't listen to that bullshit. And besides, we've had worse. Mike, you had McCown as your starting quarterback at one point. Mike Glennon was your starting quarterback at one point. Hell, we Blaine Gabbert played games before. Trust and believe it's not as bad as they say. And I'm gonna leave you with that. But before I do, again, please guys, the Bucs Aftermath. 9:30s, typically Mondays or Wednesdays, whichever one, but we will keep you informed. But yeah, please send in your inquiries that you would like for us to talk about. Like I said, we
Yeah.
don't always talk about the president. I wanted to throw a little throwback in there, give you nostalgia players. Hopefully you guys go back and take a look. But yeah, check it out. And again, spread the word, Michael Lee Evans. But for me, guys, I'm going to be making other content as well. You can always find me at my own personal podcast called It's About Bucking Time. I give you the little 3-minute filter because I save my analysis for Bucs Report. And then also, again, please check out my page at AJ Turnup. Go to my link tree. I'm going to be having specials for my merchandise. And again, at the end of the day, go Bucs.
Go Bucks. I catch you soon, brother.
You take care of yourself, my man.
And you, man. Hey guys, that's the end of the show. I'll just answer a couple of questions. Someone says they got they got a Josh Freeman jersey. I had one too, to be honest. When they're only like a few dollars, you got to, and you just got to spread the money. I see a lot of lists without Barber on it. Look, I don't think they're like the amount. Like if you said 5 players, it's difficult because I got to a point where I was like, Mike Evans, this person, John Lynch, and everyone will have their own personal favorites, and if they remember certain players more, like your Mike Allstott, like Warren Sapp, like so that's Warren Sapp, double nickel, Derek Brooks. There's 3 already, so now you've only got two left to add in. You added John Lynch. So it comes down to your own personal. Modern day Bucks fans will have different things. So, without further ado, guys, much appreciated for everyone coming on and having a chat. I will see you all next Monday. Wednesdays are only because I've got a shed ton of film to watch normally after a game, but we're on a 2-week bye, so Mondays are back. So usually I have to kind of get my stuff done for Wednesday's practice, and it's a little bit hectic. So I try to push this till Wednesday night, and all my stuff's done by then. So thanks for watching. Much appreciated. Bucks on me, Bucks on free. 1, 2, 3. Go Bucks.